Welcome back to Birds of a Feather. This is your daily Baltimore sports podcast. My name is Nathan Stroud, and today we've got a lot of stuff to go over regarding the Orioles and the Ravens. It is Monday, September 1st, which means it is officially game week for the Baltimore Ravens. Week 1, obviously, against the Bills this Sunday night. First Sunday Night Football game of the year. It's going to be against the Bills, and just an overall great feeling for the Ravens. They had practice today, their first practice for this week. Obviously, it is game week. The Bills this Sunday. Cannot believe I'm even saying that. Cannot believe I'm even saying that it is game week for the Ravens, because we've been waiting for months now since I've started the show. Obviously, we've had the Orioles to cover, which we're still going to be covering, obviously, as their games go on throughout the rest of this month. But you know, Ravens football is where it's at, man. Obviously, this Ravens team has Super Bowl aspirations, and in tomorrow's episode, we're actually going to be doing a season preview, kind of just covering expectations, just covering overall what the goal for the season should be, looking back on some of the stuff that happened this offseason, how everything forms up and shapes up for this year. So tomorrow we're going to do a season preview, plus obviously going over the Orioles game. But speaking of the Orioles, the Orioles game did just end about 10 minutes ago. Obviously, wanted to wait for the Orioles game to end before we recorded this episode, and the Orioles game just ended. They were in San Diego facing some former friends. Obviously, Ryan O'Hearn, Ramon Laureano from this season. Both of them got traded for that mega, 6-player deal package. The mega package, the mega trade that ended up happening. And also Manny Machado, who is an Orioles legend. Obviously, he's been gone for quite a while, but it's always nice to go out and face Manny Machado. It's always nice to see him. But overall, this was a great game for the Orioles. They ended up winning this game 4-3 over the Padres. Big win for them. This is game 1 of the series, and they ended up winning it. So if they win tomorrow, they'll win the series. If they lose tomorrow, the series is tied 1-1, then going into a rubber match game on Wednesday. But big win for the Orioles. Obviously, when wins and losses happen, they don't really mean as much anymore, obviously, because it is at this time of the year. This is officially the last month of the season for the Orioles. The regular season will end here in about a few weeks. I think it's September 28th is the last day. So obviously, we understand that this Orioles team isn't going to make the playoffs, but when they win games like this and win close games against really good teams like the Padres, it is really nice to, be happy about these wins that just ended up making a statement, you know what I mean? And Dylan Beavers and Samuel Basallo, the two young guns that we've been watching for the past couple of weeks now, they went out there today and played extremely, extremely well, and was a big, big reason why they ended up winning this game. Actually, throw Jeremiah Jackson in that conversation as well. The three guys who we've been watching a lot, obviously Jeremiah Jackson, Samuel Basallo, and Dylan Beavers, and then obviously Kobe Mayo, who, Kobe Mayo has had some struggles here recently, but Jeremiah Jackson, Basallo, and Dylan Beavers, all three of those guys have been playing very good baseball over the past few weeks. Jeremiah Jackson made his debut right after the trade deadline, and he ended up having the go-ahead Jeremiah Jackson and Dylan Beavers ended up having the go-ahead RBI to win this game, but Jeremiah Jackson ended up tying up the game, or ended up giving the Orioles a 3-2 lead earlier in the day, and then Samuel Basallo drove in the first 2 runs for the Orioles. So between Jeremiah Jackson, Dylan Beavers, and Samuel Basallo, all 3 of those guys drove in the 4 Orioles runs that they scored in this game, which is a true testament to kind of where the Orioles are right now. Obviously, you have the young guys on the team like Jordan Westburg, Gunnar Henderson, Jackson Holliday, Colton Cowser, but then you kind of have the new second wave of young guys just, to add on to the young core, like Basallo, like Johnson, like Beavers, like Mayo, like those guys. And you kind of see a second resurgence of young players, and that's just going to keep happening as we, the years go on. But a big game for the Orioles. The young guys stepped up big in this game, and pretty much was the entire offense for the Orioles today. And the pitching played solid as well. Kyle Bradish did only get through 4 innings of work today. He was getting worked a little bit. We took him out because of precaution. We didn't want to risk anything. So we did only get through 4 innings today, but he only gave up 2 runs. So still, Kyle Bradish is showing that he still is an amazing pitcher. Obviously, his last start, he got through 6 innings, 2 runs, 10 strikeouts. Today, only got through 4 innings and gave up 2 runs. So obviously a little bit of a worse start, but making sure that he is healthy and good and everything is good with Kyle Bradish heading into next year is obviously the most important thing right now. So let's just go over this Orioles game. So going over the Orioles game real quick, obviously they won 4-3 over the Padres, and the Orioles offense in this game played great. 11 total hits for the Orioles offense, 3 for 11 with runners in scoring position with 8 guys left on base. So again, they could have done a little bit better of a job with that, but it was enough to get the win. Jackson Holliday was the leadoff guy in this game. He went 1 for 5. Jeremiah Jackson oh my God. Jeremiah Jackson is someone who we just need to have a conversation about, and we've been talking about him so much over the past few weeks because he has been phenomenal for the Orioles. But Jeremiah Jackson, player of the game today in this Orioles game. And Jeremiah Jackson, Dylan Beavers, and Samuel Basallo were the only 3 Orioles in this game to have multiple hits, and they also were the only 3 guys to drive in runs in this game. So going over to Jeremiah Jackson, he went 3 for 5 in this game. He scored 2 runs, had a solo home run as well, a 337 average. A 337 average in how many plate appearances? In almost 100 at-bats. Jeremiah Jackson has a 337 average. He has been incredible for the Orioles, and I'm not going to say he will because obviously that's a management thing and decision, but Jeremiah Jackson should 100% have a vital, important role for this Orioles team. And to be honest with you guys, with the way that he's playing right now, he probably should be our starting right fielder, to be honest with you. I know Tyler O'Neill is hurt right now, and obviously he's getting paid more money, and I guess that he has not the advantage, but kind of the more of a for sure spot than him. But Jeremiah Jackson, I'm going to be honest, guys, he really deserves to start next year at right field. He has been incredible in the field. He's been incredible with the bat, and he's really proving his worth right now, and I'm so happy for this guy. He wasn't even ranked in the Orioles top 30 when we called him up. He was somebody who, at the time was just like a nobody. Nobody really knew who he was, and he is really making a name for himself right now. He goes 3 for 5 today, a solo home run, scored 2 runs himself. A phenomenal game by Jeremiah Jackson. Gunnar Henderson batting third, he went 1 for 4. Emmanuel Rivera went 1 for 3. Luis Vazquez ended up coming in as a pinch hitter. Same with Colton Cowser. Neither of them guys got a hit. And then Dylan Beavers ended up going 2 for 4 with an RBI and a run scored. Dylan Beavers ended up bringing in the go-ahead run in the 7th inning that gave the Orioles a 4-3 lead. Dylan Beavers, he's been so unbelievably just great for the Orioles since we called him up. Same thing with Jeremiah Jackson. Jeremiah Jackson, obviously, he's been a big contributor since we called him up right after the trade deadline. Dylan Beavers has a 333 average and a 439 on base percentage and a 479 slugging in his time in Baltimore. He has a 2-hit day today, drove in the go-ahead run for the Orioles, so shout out to Dylan Beavers. And then Dylan Carlson went 0 for 3 with a run, and then Samuel Basallo got the scoring started for the Orioles today. He went 2 for 4 with 2 RBIs in this game, and both of the RBIs that he had were very, very well hit balls. Both of them were 100 plus off the bat, and this is what we know that Samuel Basallo can do. We know how good he can hit the ball. We know how hard he can hit the ball. We know how it just explodes off the bat. And he showed that today. He got the scoring started in the 2nd inning, giving the Orioles an early 2-0 lead before eventually the Padres tied it up in the bottom of the 2nd. But Samuel Basallo, 2 for 4 with 2 RBIs in this game. Shout out to him. Kobe Mayo went 1 for 4 with 3 strikeouts. And again, with Kobe Mayo, a big thing with him has been the strikeouts. He swings at a lot of things, he chases at a lot of things, but very similar to Samuel Basallo in the fact that Kobe Mayo can really, really hit the hell out of the ball. Like, he can hit the ball very well. We saw that in AAA, and we've seen flashes of it this season as well. But Kobe Mayo gets a hit today, goes 1 for 4, but does strike out 3 times, unfortunately. And then Austin Jackson was catching today. He was batting 9th, went 0 for 4 with 4 strikeouts. Not the best day for Austin Jackson, but overall, the offense had a very solid day. Again, Jeremiah Jackson, Dylan Beavers, Samuel Basallo really carried the load in this game, and just shout out to them. And then going over to the pitching, Kyle Bradish, again, got the start today. Only got through 4 innings of work. But he did throw 84 pitches in those 4 innings, so that's why they pulled him early, is because they just did not want to risk anything. I wouldn't say that he's really on like a pitch limit, but 84 pitches in 4 innings is a little bit much. So we decided to pull Kyle a little bit early. He gave up it was 4 innings, 4 hits, 2 walks, 2 runs, and had 5 strikeouts in 4 innings. So again, the strikeout numbers have been there for Kyle Bradish, but he does give up 2 runs in 4 innings. Not the worst start in the world, but also not the greatest either. He did get worked heavily in this game and was having a little bit of trouble with command. And then Dentrich ends in this game. He actually gets the win in today's game, gets through 2.1 innings of work, gives up 2 hits, 1 walk, and 0 earned runs. And then Rico Garcia, 1.2 innings, no hits, no runs, no walks, 2 strikeouts. And then Keegan Aiken gets his 4th save of the year, 1 inning, 1 hit, no runs, no walks, and 1 strikeout, and gets the save. So shout out to the pitching. They really held it down. Obviously, the pitching in this last series against San Francisco was an absolute disaster, and the only game that it wasn't a disaster is the Trevor Rogers start. Surprise, surprise. Yeah, the bullpen did its thing. Dentrich ends, Rico Garcia, Keegan Aiken all came in and held it down very well in a very close game as well. So the pressure was all up against the bullpen, and they were able to go out there and really deliver. So shout out to them. And again, the Orioles lead this series 1-0. There is Game 2 tomorrow. And in Game 2, it is going to be Tyler Wells versus Yu Darvish. This will be a very fun matchup. Tyler Wells coming back from IL, making his season debut. He has not played for the Orioles in a long, long time. Around the same time when Kyle Bradish got hurt last year. Tyler Wells and Kyle Bradish both were starting pitchers for the Orioles last season, and both of them ended up getting Tommy John surgery. I don't think Tyler Wells got Tommy John. It was some shoulder thing that he was out for a long time. But Tyler Wells and Kyle Bradish were both out for the rest of last season, and obviously for pretty much the entirety of this season. But Tyler Wells is back off of the injured list, and he is going to be playing and starting in tomorrow's game. I thought that we were going to put him in the bullpen. I thought that we were going to put him kind of in the back end of the bullpen for him to come back, because Tyler Wells, in a way, is viewed as a reliever, and that's where I thought Tony was going to place him. But Tyler Wells is going to be starting in tomorrow's game, so that's going to be exciting to watch. And obviously, it is up against Yu Darvish, who has struggled a little bit this year, but he is still one of the more phenomenal and fun pitchers to watch in baseball. So it should be a very fun matchup. Hopefully, Tyler Wells can go out here tomorrow and finish out the season good. I'm not going to say depending on what happens tomorrow, but depending on how he finishes the season, I don't know if Tyler Wells is going to be a starter for us next year. I would not be surprised if he moves to the bullpen while we're trying to revamp the bullpen this offseason. Obviously, the bullpen has a lot of work to do. There's a lot of work that needs to be done on the bullpen. So I wouldn't be surprised if Tyler Wells either comes in as like our primary closer or someone that can be a big inning bullpen guy, and one of our most reliable bullpen guys, or even the most reliable bullpen guy, or Tyler Wells will be a back-end starter for next season. I think either way, you have kind of your own thing you need to do. Obviously, I do think that the Orioles should go after 1 or 2 quality pitchers in free agency for starters, and then also I think that they need to go try and get a premier closer of the ones that are available, and then also just revamping the bullpen with whatever names you have. And I think you can plug Tyler Wells in either as a starter or a bullpen guy or even as a closer. So whatever they want to do, Tyler Wells kind of is like a wild card in that regard. So we'll see what they decide to do for next season, but all I know is that tomorrow he is going to be starting for the Orioles, and hopefully he can go out here, get the win, and the Orioles can get a series win over the Padres. So switching sports up here, going over the Baltimore Ravens. So tonight was the NFL Top 10. So throughout the past month or so, I would say every week or a couple times a week they will go through the NFL Top 100, and it's a list that is voted on by players, and it's a very highly regarded list. It's the NFL players that vote for their peers. It's a very it's a list that a lot of NFL players take seriously because obviously the media and the critics and the fans can vote on who they think is good, but for the players, for them to get voted on by their own players association, the people across the league, for them to get voted by their peers super highly, means a lot to them. And I think that in a way it kind of means more than like media and like. And now I don't want to say it means more than like an MVP, but an MVP is obviously voted on by like a group of people. This is voted on by current NFL players. So in a way, it is a very, very high, it's a very highly acclaimed thing. So Lamar Jackson last season was number 2 on the NFL Top 100. Tyreek Hill was first. He deserved it. Lamar was coming off of an MVP season. So the big question was, where is Lamar Jackson going to be this year, and where is Derrick Henry going to be this year? So as the NFL Top 100 has been going on, they had, I think, Kyle Hamilton at 51. Marlon Humphrey, I don't even think made the list, which was crazy. I know Linderbaum was on the list. I know Roquan was on the list. And I think that was all for the Ravens. So, I think Ronnie Stanley was on the list as well. So there was obviously several Ravens that made the top 100. Again, the Ravens are an extremely, extremely talented team, arguably the most talented team in the NFL. And the NFL peers, they recognize that, and they, voted accordingly. But today was the top 10. Today was the top 10. They had like a cool little NFL Network thing where they were going over the top 10 players voted on by their peers of 2025. So I think 10 was Pat Surtain, 9 was Justin Jefferson, 8 was Myles Garrett, 7 was Derrick Henry. And as you can see on my screen, if you're watching on YouTube, you can actually see it. Derrick Henry voted the 7th best player in the NFL by his peers, by other NFL players. So that is a very big accomplishment for him. I think the highest he's ever been ranked was number 4 back in 2021. So this is actually the second highest he's ever finished in terms of NFL Top 100 rankings. So shout out to Derrick Henry. Obviously, we understand what he did this year with Lamar Jackson. 1,900 yards on the ground. Double-digit touchdowns. Again, 1,900 yards on the ground. An age 31 running back. He's 30-plus years old. The most rushing yards by any running back above the age of 30. Was literally defying time, Father Time himself. Like, it was absolutely insane what he was able to do. Nobody thought that he was going to be able to do what he did. And hell, I'm going to admit it too. When we signed Derrick Henry last year in the offseason, I did not think he was going to go out here and run for almost 2,000 yards in a season. I was thinking maybe max 1,400, 1,500. But for him to go 1,900 yards is crazy. So Derrick Henry lands at number 7 on the NFL Top 100. Very, very deserving of this. Just to be in the top 10 is obviously a very big honor, but Derrick Henry ranked number 7, and then I think number 6 ended up being... who was number 6? God, who was it? I forgot. Hold on. We'll go over in just 1 second. All right, so number 6 was Joe Burrow. Number 5 was Patrick Mahomes. Number 4 was Jamar Chase. Number 3 was Josh Allen. And number 3 was Josh Allen. Number 2 was Lamar Jackson, and number 1 was Saquon Barkley. Lamar Jackson landed at number 2 on the top 100 players list. Obviously, a big honor to be number 2. Lamar Jackson was number 2 last year after his MVP season. Tyreek Hill was number 1. This year, Lamar Jackson was number 2, and Saquon Barkley was number 1. But something that's very interesting with this number 2 ranking that he has is, 1, he's the number 1 rated quarterback on this list. Obviously, Saquon Barkley at running back, he was the number 1 rated player. But in terms of quarterbacks, Lamar Jackson was the number 1 rated quarterback in the NFL in this top 100 list. He was also the AP All-Pro first team quarterback for the first team, and he was also the Pro Football Writers of America voted MVP. But Lamar Jackson, as we know, was not the regular season voted MVP. Like, the official MVP award did not get awarded to Lamar Jackson. It got awarded to Josh Allen in a very, very close MVP race. Josh Allen ended up taking it by a few votes. Lamar Jackson was runner-up in MVP. But Lamar Jackson in NFL Top 100 is rated above Josh Allen. In AP All-Pro, he's rated above Josh Allen. And he was also rated above Josh Allen in Pro Football Writers of America MVP. And I don't know the statistics on this, but I do know that for quarterbacks, for example, There's never been a quarterback that was the second All-Pro first-team quarterback that got MVP over the first-team All-Pro quarterback. And, I mean, y'all can fact-check me on this in the comments, but I don't know, and I don't think that there's been an MVP who is rated lower than the runner-up of the guy who won MVP. So Josh Allen obviously won MVP, and Lamar Jackson was the runner-up, but the runner-up placed higher on the NFL Top 100 list by their peers, might I add, than the guy who won MVP, Josh Allen. And again, I'm not knocking Josh Allen. Josh Allen is an incredible football player. I think he's very deserving of a top 5, top 3 spot. But the NFL peers giving Lamar Jackson the spot over him is just very interesting. It's very interesting in that regard. Obviously, I agree with it. I think Lamar Jackson is the best player in the NFL. I think Lamar Jackson is the best quarterback in the NFL. And obviously I'm a Ravens fan. There might be some bias in that, but there's a lot of other people who aren't Ravens fans that agree with it. And in this case, being the NFL itself agreeing that Lamar Jackson is the number 1 rated quarterback. So shout out to Lamar Jackson for being the number 2 overall rated player, the number 1 overall rated quarterback. Back-to-back years with number 2 ratings does hurt a little bit, I feel like, but still he was the number 1 rated quarterback in back-to-back years, losing obviously his number 1 spot in terms of overall rankings to Tyreek Hill and Saquon Barkley, who both had incredible years, last year and this year. But Lamar Jackson obviously is Lamar Jackson. We know this, and again, with the season starting this Sunday for the Ravens, getting to talk about Lamar Jackson every single day, getting the chance to cover what Lamar Jackson does. I mean, I've been doing this, since he was a rookie, obviously, but obviously the show has not been a thing until a few months ago. So being able to talk about Lamar Jackson, being able to talk about this Ravens team as a whole is obviously going to be a lot of fun. And there's going to be a lot to go over about Lamar Jackson because, again, this guy is the engine in this train called the Baltimore Ravens. And hopefully we ride this thing all the way to the damn Super Bowl. But the last thing that I do want to go over in this game is about some Ravens training camp updates. So, as you'll know, it is game week. The Ravens play this Sunday night against the Bills on Sunday Night Football. And today is Monday, but today was the first day of practice since the 53-man rosters got cut down, but it's also the first practice of game week. Game week obviously is the practices that lead up to the game that you're about to play, in this case being the Bills this Sunday night. And obviously when it's game week, you try and get everyone practicing it, or as many people practicing as you possibly can. So in today's practice, there was 3 people that were missing from practice. They had 4 days off, they're back at practice, they're fresh, they're ready to go. And for the most part, from what we heard, practice went well. We're not going to get, and this is the same for a lot of other teams. A lot of other teams kind of have this exact same type of mindset. But with the Ravens, obviously, guys like John Harbaugh, the coaching staff, the players, they're not going to go into detail too much on how the practice went because a lot of it, they kind of want to keep secret. A lot of reporters will try to ask some very intense questions about specifics about practice and injuries and all that stuff. And a lot of coaches don't like really talking about those issues, especially week 1, because again, we are playing the Bills. It is a very tough opponent, and I do think that John Harbaugh wants to keep a lot of these possible injury concerns and just specifics about practice kind of to himself. That's why you won't really see a lot of people recording practices. And this is just the same like throughout the year. Like there's not going to be a lot of film on practices in terms for the public to see during the week, like during the actual week of games. You're not going to tend to see a lot of videos from practices because they kind of like to keep it to themselves because obviously they are fully preparing for their they're fully preparing for their opponent that they're about to play. Obviously in the Ravens case it is the Buffalo Bills, but throughout training camp, that's when, throughout, the training camp, before this, obviously all the practices, before the 53-man rosters get cut down, that's when you'll see a lot of videos about practices and plays and 7-on-7s, 11-on-11s, and stuff like that, because there's no opponent that they're really, looking forward to face. They're kind of just practicing and getting warm and getting ready for the season. But now, it is practice. It is practice week, it is game week. We're playing the Bills. We're preparing specifically for the Bills, but also getting right in our own regard. So we're not going to see a ton of videos about practice. But Jamison Hensley, a Baltimore Ravens reporter, did come out here today and say that there was 3 Ravens that were not practicing today. And that is Isaiah Likely, Jair Alexander, and Patrick Ricard. Jair Alexander hasn't practiced since August 9th, and Ricard hasn't practiced since the 14th of August. And their season opener, obviously, is this Sunday night. And this is a little concerning. I definitely would say that the Jair injury is a little bit more concerning than the Ricard injury. John Harbaugh kind of did clarify that Ricard will be good to go. But with Jair Alexander, obviously I made a special bonus episode all about him and all about when we signed him this offseason, because it is a big deal. Jair Alexander, one of the better corners in football. He has been dealing with some injuries over the past couple of years. His availability really hasn't been there, but when he's on the field, he's right up there with the best of them. And Jair Alexander, kind of dealt with this little knee injury on and off throughout the beginning of training camp, but he has not practiced since August 9th, which is a little concerning, obviously, because that is now almost a month since we've seen him, and it is game week. So even if he were to come back like tomorrow or Wednesday or Thursday or whatever it is, even when he does come back, he kind of would have to adjust very quickly. And again, he's a veteran. He's a former All-Pro. He's a former Pro Bowler. Like, he understands how things work in the NFL. So I'm sure if there's anybody that can adjust to stuff like that, it would be him. But the knee injury is a little bit concerning. John Harbaugh did say that they'll see how he is on Wednesday, and if we don't get any confirmation that he's questionable by Wednesday, then it's safe to assume that he's not going to play Week 1 against the Bills. And again, Jair Alexander is obviously a very important player to this Ravens team, but we don't need Jair Alexander to beat the Bills. It's obviously like Lamar Jackson, we need Lamar Jackson. We need Derrick Henry. We need Zay Flowers. Like, we need guys like that, obviously, to win. But with how deep our secondary is, with Malachi Starks, with Kyle Hamilton, with Marlon Humphrey, with Nate Wiggins, not having Jair Alexander for maybe 1 to 2 weeks with this injury isn't necessarily like the world is going to end. You know what I mean? It still is going to be okay. And obviously, having Jair Alexander healthy for the playoffs is the most important thing. So even I obviously don't think that the snaps are going to be crazy for him throughout the season, but if Jair Alexander, obviously if he can play Week 1, that's really good, but at this point I don't even know if Week 1 would be smart anymore, just because he would have to come back and adjust very quickly to practice. Maybe if he comes back on Wednesday, we'll see. I don't think he's going to come back tomorrow, but who knows? This is another thing, is we don't really know how serious these injuries are. Maybe this Jair Alexander injury is something that really needs to be looked at. But at the same time, he was at the Louisville game this weekend walking just fine. So hopefully it's not anything too bad for Jair. There's also some veterans like this who don't necessarily need to practice a ton. He's game ready whenever it's time. But just getting in a practice or two on game week would be a little nice for Jair. But we'll have more on his status as the week goes on. And then Isaiah Likely, as we know, Isaiah Likely did suffer a foot injury about a month ago, I'd say. I don't remember the exact day, but he did suffer a ankle sprain. He did not a sprain. He did suffer an ankle injury where he had a broken bone in his foot. No, it wasn't an ankle, in his foot. So Isaiah Likely did undergo surgery. Right when the injury happened, he immediately underwent surgery. And Isaiah Likely has been present at some practices on the sideline walking around in a boot, but he has not touched the field since that foot injury, and I don't really know what the status is going to be. We didn't put Isaiah Likely on the physically unable to play list, so he will be available. He is technically available in the first game of the season, but if you put him on the IR to start the year, he misses at least the first 4 weeks, and we didn't do that. So obviously there's optimism that he's going to be able to play within the first 4 weeks, so we didn't have to put him on the IR. Now, if there was, if I had to make a bet with my life depending on it, that if Isaiah Likely is going to play this Sunday, I think it is probably a 85 to 15% chance that no, he's not going to play. But maybe he is good to go. I don't know. Maybe he's getting some practices and workouts in. not at the Ravens practice, and it's kind of like a secretive thing because that's happened a lot of the times with other players and stuff like that. Obviously, Isaiah Likely is probably still injured, but there is still a chance that he could play this Sunday. John Harbaugh did want to kind of keep a lot of these things, close to his chest. He didn't really want to go in too much on Isaiah Likely's injury because the Bills might be assuming that Isaiah Likely is hurt, but maybe he's not hurt. You know what I mean? And if you have someone injured for so long, the Bills, obviously, I don't think are going to fully prepare for Isaiah Likely, and obviously we understand how big of a contributor and how scary of a threat that Isaiah Likely is for this Ravens team, and how good he can also be for this Ravens team. So I do think, there's a chance that Isaiah Likely is activated, and not activated, but I think there's a chance that Isaiah Likely is available to play on Sunday's game. But I do think it would be in a limited capacity, but having Isaiah Likely out on the field obviously means that this offense is at full strength with Isaiah Likely. John Harbaugh even said all pro expectations were put on him, so there is a lot of pressure, not even pressure, but there's a lot of expectations on Isaiah Likely, and they understand that the tight ends are going to be such an important part of this offense. And I don't know, man, if it's Sunday night and we see Isaiah Likely on the field, that is going to be absolute cinema, and that's going to be chills down my spine if you see Isaiah Likely on that field. It's going to be super cool to see, but we'll see what happens. We'll see if he ends up practicing sometime this week before the game. Maybe there'll be like a surprise, like, hey, Isaiah Likely's active, he's actually healthy, he's been practicing on a separate practice field outside of practice with no cameras and everything like that. Maybe that's the case, who knows? But it's going to be very interesting to see what that is going to be. And if it's not week 1, then I do think that there's a very good chance that he can play in weeks 2 or 3. So obviously we'll look more into that as time goes on. But another thing that I wanted to go over is just some quotes that Ronnie Stanley said from the media. And Ronnie Stanley and Nnamdi Madubuike both kind of said the exact same thing. And obviously, since it is game week, a lot of the reporters' questions are going to be going over just the overall, mindset heading into week 1 against the Bills, because we are playing the Bills in Buffalo. This is the team that eliminated us from the playoffs. This is the team that has the quarterback that won MVP over Lamar Jackson. Like, this team, there's a big chip on everybody's shoulder heading into this game, more so Mark Andrews and Lamar Jackson. Heading into this game, this team sent you home last year in Buffalo, and you're going back to the exact same place. And Ronnie Stanley said that he thinks that Mark Andrews will return handling the Buffalo after the drop 2-point conversion. He says, I know the type of competitor Mark is. He's not going to let one moment, one bad thing set him back. He is a true warrior. And we understand what Mark Andrews has to go through pretty much every single game just to get through a football game. Obviously, with the whole diabetes thing, with him having to do extra stuff on the sideline to make sure that he's right and ready to go and able to play. And Mark Andrews is one of the greatest Ravens of all time. People might hear that and jump back in their seat, but this is the all-time receiving touchdowns leader for the Baltimore Ravens. He is a huge part of this team. Lamar Jackson, this is honestly probably his favorite target. The guy who's been there since Lamar was a rookie, the guy who's been there for Lamar's entire Ravens career, he has that connection with Mark Andrews more than anybody else. The receiving core has gone in and out, but Mark Andrews has been there the entire time. So in terms of chemistry, his chemistry with Mark Andrews is, at the top of the top. But obviously with the whole, he's getting older, and also the stuff that happened last year was a big deal, but a lot of people are really writing Mark Andrews off like he's just not going to do absolutely anything this year and he's going to be absolute garbage. I do not think that's going to be the case. I think Mark Andrews and Isaiah Likely will have an extremely big role on this team as a tight end 1, tight end 1A, tight end 1B. I do think Isaiah Likely is the tight end 1 of this team when he's healthy, but if Mark Andrews goes into this game on Sunday with Isaiah Likely out and Mark Andrews is the tight end 1, I know for a fact he's going to have a chip on his shoulder, and I know for a fact he's going to make the most of the moment. But thank you guys so much for tuning into and listening to this episode of Birds of a Feather. If you like this content, make sure to subscribe on YouTube, follow up on Spotify. Make sure to also click the link in the bio to listen, or not to listen, but click the link in the bio to follow my Twitter, follow my Instagram. On Twitter, I post live updates on anything going on Ravens and Orioles related. And on Instagram, I post updates on every time I upload a video, so you don't get to miss any of them. So make sure to give those a follow. Again, I appreciate all the support that you guys have given me. There's some big production stuff going on behind the scenes, which is very cool that we're going to be introducing and debuting here soon for football season. So that's going to be going on very soon. Obviously, the Ravens play this Sunday night, which is obviously so exciting. The Orioles get a win today, which is very nice to see from them. Tomorrow, Tyler Wells makes his season debut and his return from injury. Hopefully, the Orioles can get a win tomorrow. And then also tomorrow, we're going to be doing a season preview, kind of going over everything that happened this offseason for the Orioles, going over expectations, going over the team, and just the overall, going over the schedule as well, just kind of going over the whole preview for the season. And then we're also going to be going into like a week 1 preview as well. We're going to be doing that the day before or the night before the game. So we're going to be doing that this Saturday. So obviously some Ravens content for you guys pretty much every single day leading up to the game. And this is going to be how it's going to be every single week. Obviously September is pretty crazy because you got Orioles and you got Ravens at the exact same time. But once the Orioles season ends after this month, October on, is pure Ravens football content, which is going to be a ton of fun for you football fans out there. I appreciate all you guys for sticking with me, supporting me. I promise it's going to be worth it in the end. Again, I appreciate you all so much. I'll see you guys tomorrow. You have a great Day. Go O's, go Ravens, and I'll see you all later. Peace out.